Welcome to US Tzu Chi 360. I'm Ginger Chang. I'm here with one of the video directors, Nils Akan, and today we continue with the second part of our feature on the British petroleum oil drilling disaster 3 years later. The incident on April 20th, 2010 ended up as our nation's largest accidental and worst environmental disasters. Now, 3 years later, my team and I went to Louisiana to investigate the current status of the affected communities. Welcome, Nils.
Thank you, Ginger.
So during our trip from the BP oil spill, we learned that it was actually kind of like the icing on the cake, because we learned that the people themselves suffer from annual disasters such as flooding from hurricanes.
Absolutely, they get the hurricanes every year, and they are used to it. You know, Katrina, of course, was one of the biggest, and some area we visited was really affected by Katrina. But yet they still get over it, and they start over again. And as you know, the hurricanes come every year, but they are really attached to the land, deeply attached to the land. That's why they don't leave. But with the BP oil spill, it was a different story for them.
It was a different story, especially for the over 90,000 fishermen employed in the seafood industry in Louisiana. However, we met one of them who was affected. Her name is Sandy Nguyen, but she herself was a victim.
Yeah, Sandy, who is the wife of a fisherman, a shrimper, she actually had to sell her house because she said that she had a beach house, and every year she would get the hurricanes and she would get flooded. And so she was not able to help the fishermen, what she does all the time. So she sold the house, and now she's able to be on the ground every time a disaster happens. She's there and she's helping all the fishermen.
Which is very admirable, but we also met other fishing communities. One of them was the Cambodian, the United Homa Nation, which is a Native American tribe, and the fishing family, American fishing family. Yeah. So let's go meet them now.
The most vulnerable group of business people I know that have always historically been taken advantage of is the commercial fishermen.
I'm a fisherman. I love catching shrimp. I like to be out there.
A lot of them can't speak English and can't read.
Till the wheels fall off, I'm gonna keep trying to shrimp, you know?
They don't think of fishing as a business. It's always been a way of life.
A lot of fishermen left. You know, there used to be a lot more.
Profit and loss, bank statements, business banking, the fishermen don't keep up with.
My name is Pond Plork. I'm a commercial fisherman. I've been doing this since '97. After the oil spill, I went back to shrimping, doing the things that I love to do, and it got me concerned about the future. I seen everything that was on the water that shouldn't be there. That's why they rushed. One day they rushed 6 people to the hospital on the chopper because of the chemicals that was in the air. It was supposed to be a nice sunny day, and it was foggy. And it wasn't because of the fog. It was because of the chemicals.
He said there's not even bycatch, much less shrimp.
It's supposed to be good already. They're supposed to have a whole bunch of roll on them, eggs. And for some reason, they're not. They're kind of late, and they're not many.
My name is Sandy Nguyen. I'm the Executive Director of Coastal Communities Consulting, CCC. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization that provides technical assistance, economic development, and social services. We service all fishermen. The Vietnamese and the Cambodian fishermen, there's a language barrier.
I can't comprehend everything that I can read, you know, and that's when Sandy stepped in. She does all my paperwork, you know. Almost all the fishermen. You know, like I said, most of the fishermen are not very educated.
They're uneducated, but they're very smart in the water, very good at what they do, and don't underestimate them, engage them.
When Sandy needs me to come and talk to whomever or translate to whomever that need my help, I'm not a certified translator. My English is broken, my Cambodian is broken, and I could speak basic language.
Hi, Mr. King. How you doing?
តាំងពីព្រៃកំពប់មកមាន He didn't do any better after the oil spill. But what he had been surviving on or building on, trying to upgrade his businesses with the settlement that he had.
They lost a lot of money. They continue to suffer economically. mentally. It's not a hurricane where you can go borrow money or you can fix your boat and go right back out in the water and make money.
Yeah, it's hard. It's real hard. But I have worked harder than that when I was younger during the communists, so that's nothing new to me. It's hard to tell you, to explain to you all this tragic that happened over here because as a kid, I went through starvation. So I'm pretty much always keep trying to move forward. So it's hard to tell you how I feel about the oil spill. I'm 45 years old. I got mileage on me, you know. I try to deal with it on a daily basis and not trying to complicate myself 10 years down the road. I'm trying to accomplish whatever I could today.
If you respect nature, you know, only take what you need from it and don't abuse it, it'll take care of you.
To me, being Native American, you depend on your water and like a garden here, and you live off the land and the water. We were taught to do that, you know, for generation after generation. Clarice Freelou, I work for United Home Nation as an environmental outreach coordinator. And the worst part for me was even after the oil was still in our Gulf, it was the dispersants that were sprayed.
My name is Thomas Dardar Jr. I'm Principal Chief of the United Home Nation, representing 17,000 citizens. The oil is not gone. You know, you don't see it on the top, but this last hurricane that came through Isaac turned it up and brought it on the beach, and they were finding tar balls.
It's still here today. It's almost 3 years later, and we still have oil sitting right off of our coast.
A fish will float. When it gets killed, it'll float. An oyster, a crab, shrimp won't float, so you don't know the devastation that it caused because of the fact that it doesn't float.
Some of these guys that live in these houses, that's all they've ever done was crab, shrimp, or fish for a living. And then when we had the oil coming in, that was no longer an option for them.
Since the oil spill, a lot of our fishermen haven't returned or very impacted by the oil because a lot of them won't fish and sell seafood product that is not good to the public. You know, if they don't feel safe in eating it, they won't sell it to, you know, the consumer. And in turn, they do not eat it. And, you know, the other tribal citizens, a lot of them don't eat it. So it really impacted their economy and their way of life and their culture. So it's, you just take what nature gives you, respect the water, you know, because it's life-giving.
My dad is a shrimper, and I went out there with him, and to see how he did it and how he's using it to make a living and to keep me happy and my family happy, then I can see that using the land to help you and not abusing it can really make a huge difference.
Well, someone had to come on the scene and really take care of it, you know, because men and their greed just kept going and on and on and on and on. They just kept, you know, industry, here. But they wasn't respecting Mother Earth. You know, in this country that 77,000 years from now, people will still not be able to live there because of the detriment that they put on the earth by extracting uranium and ore and all that. So these people will not be able to live in this area for 77,000 years. So when you look at that and you realize that, you know, you have to be careful and respect Mother Nature.
Mother Nature can't take its course. They tricked Mother Nature. They knew it was going to happen. Greed, money. people, all fields were making big money. I was born a fisherman. It's in my blood. This is what I do. I've been fishing since I was a baby. Last year, I sold $800 worth of shrimp, because where I shrimp at, there's no shrimp, compared to selling $80,000 worth of shrimp in a season, $120,000 worth of shrimp, to coming out here and not be able to make a penny. You know, that's kind of tough. It's kind of emotionally. Everything ain't about money. The emotions. You know, what I'm gonna do if I can't go shrimping? How I'm gonna support my family? What I'm gonna do with myself? The BP come through. It killed plenty of the islands and all. The marsh, the prairie we call it, wasn't that healthy. Then the last storm we had came. It wasn't that big of a storm, but all that prairie was such weak, and that's how all this got in here. That ain't supposed to be here. You can't work, you can't shrimp in that because you clog your nuts up. The government's supposed to be out here cleaning these canals up. They ain't never showed up yet. This was a bayou. This was navigational waterway. Now we stuck. They took this from me, coming out on my boat, my livelihood.
One key notion that's been brought up in the video we just saw is that we need to understand the situation in the Gulf Coast affects the whole nation because the people in the Gulf carry the infrastructure for the nation. Nils, from the first video, it seems like all of us are connected in this chain of life and survival. And more importantly, Henry says that his livelihood was taken away.
Yeah, exactly, because even though he was able to work, you know, Mr. Henry told us he was able to work with vessels of opportunity, which was offered by BP to the fishermen. And Pan, the Cambodian fisherman we met, the same thing. He worked for 5 months. They actually said they made money out of it.
Yeah.
Maybe not as much money as they used to make before, but actually more money that they would make if they were fishing, because there were no fish, there were no shrimps. So vessels of opportunity helped them. But once it was over, they had to go back to their life.
Yeah.
But they still don't know if they will be able to.
Exactly. And it's not even the fisherman's livelihood, it's the marine life's livelihood. And even though the Department of Wildlife and Fisheries in Louisiana claims that the FDBA says in March 2011 the seafood is safe to eat, but I believe it's still a little questionable.
Well, yes, it's safe to eat, but the fishermen, they don't know if the fish are there, if the shrimps are there.
Right.
You know, Mr. Henry, he told us every year when the shrimp season opened, it was like going back to school as a kid. You know, they would paint their boats, and every boat would look really clean, and they would be all on the sea in the same time. He said he hasn't painted his boat in 2 years because he doesn't see why he would do it. Because, you know, he doesn't know if he will catch shrimp, so he doesn't know if it's worth it.
I believe to bring this balance was best put by Dr. Mefford and his team. Which is that Louisiana depends on oil and gas revenues, and that's not going to change in a couple of years. So what we need to be thinking about in the future is how we can benefit the economy and nature at the same time.
I've spent enough time with birds to know that we have to give them a chance. We have to do our best. Even in the face of a large disaster, I knew they would keep fighting, and so I never gave up. I kept fighting.
We've just been decimated so much, and how are we going to get to where we need to go? But I have to say now, not only do I have hope, I have confidence that we are actually going to take huge steps in the right direction.
It was frustrating. It was challenging. I think we learned a lot from the experience as an environmental community. We're all continuing to learn.
So right now we're on Elmer's Island in Louisiana in southeast part of the state. And Elmer's Island is one of the sites that was hit the hardest by oil during the BP spill, along with Grand Isle and some of the islands in Barataria Bay. 3 years after the spill, there are over 200 miles of oiled shoreline here. So we have BP cleanup crew, and I see about 15 people, and they are scouring the island looking for oil that may have washed up in the last high tide. Yeah, they just walked through looking. We'll just have to keep looking. The oil is, you know, it's been beaten up by waves and chopped up and churned, and it's generally now in fairly small chunks of oil they call tar balls. This is a tar ball. And this is another part of probably the same tar ball. You see it kind of holds together. If I scrape at the sand, it comes apart. This kind of holds together a little bit more. It's a little harder. If you smell it, there's a little bit, it smells a little bit like a parking lot. And this is why BP is cleaning up out here today. 3 years post-spill, there's oil.
The inability to stop the flow of oil from the well was incredibly frustrating. There wasn't a whole lot that we could do about it. Even after 3 years, it can be very hard to assess the impacts of oil on birds.
So where we're standing here on Elmer's Island, there's a flock of birds that often rests here. They spend their roosting time on this part of the beach. So these birds were nesting down here during the oil spill. They nest on islands that had oil washing up onto the islands. Royal terns in particular lost a lot of young that year because those young were coated in oil before the young could fly away from the nests.
See these holes? There are bacteria that can eat oil. And then there are other things that will eat the bacteria. Polychaete worms, which are small little worms that live in the sand, they will find the things that have died in tar balls and they drill holes through. Polychaete worms are the food of some of the shorebirds we've seen flying around. So you see the food chain link.
You know, it's great to see that many birds in one area. And I think, you know, when you see groups of birds like that, it shows that there is a lot of resiliency in this ecosystem. The birds want to survive, you know, and so it's really great to see that many birds following a big disaster like the oil spill.
A good day on the beach is a good day.
Well, you never know what you're going to encounter out there, so you want to have footwear to be prepared. We developed a program to involve bird watchers, to involve citizen science, and collect data about birds that were being impacted by the oil spill.
We drove to the other locks and to try to catch a couple of different birds, and it's endlessly fascinating what you can see when you're watching birds. You never know, for one thing, what's going to show up.
It may just be a herring gull, but I'm not sure if the back is maybe dark. It's pretty far. With that database, it'll allow us to be able to track populations, so it gives us a better understanding of the distribution and the abundance of birds following the oil spill and how that might be changing.
I bought this property specifically to birdwatch in Grand Isle. It was heartbreaking to watch that on television. These are birds that I'm so familiar with. You know, these are the birds in my backyard. I'm sure there are scientists working on, engineers working on how to better drill for oil more safely, and I can't participate in that. But I can participate in this and help in the way that I can.
Right now we're going to put some shelters out on the beach for the baby terns. When they hatch out of their eggs, they quickly leave their nest, but they can't fly for 3 weeks. So we're going to put some shelters out on the beach to give them a little bit of extra protection. So everybody grab a couple shelters, and let's go ahead and put some out.
Where bird populations are healthy, that means the rest of your ecological populations are healthy. When your ecological populations are healthy, that means your habitats are healthy. And that's barrier islands and deltas and dunes and marshes, which means these habitats are healthy for humans and ecological species for generations to come.
Through our coastal bird stewardship and habitat protection, I have a lot of hope that Audubon will be able to protect Gulf coastal birds, communities, and habitats for many, many years to come.
My hope for the region is to see a healthy, resilient ecosystem, one that supports a large number of nesting water birds on our barrier islands and beaches, as well as to see many, many birds migrating through the region, accumulating the reserves they need to make their long-distance flights.
My wish is that all of us that live in and love Grand Isle, Louisiana, can work together with our children and teach them and the tourists to take care of this beautiful bird nesting area. Where birds thrive, people prosper.
30 years ago, the world had wondered if life in Louisiana's south coast would be able to rebound. And from what we've seen, Nils, it slowly has. Especially the dedication of Melanie, Eric, Dr. Mefford, and Molly. It was so cute to see that any chance they had, they would use their binoculars to view the birds.
I was really impressed by Eric, especially. You know, when he was looking in his binoculars, the binoculars are his life. And basically, when he's looking at the birds, he doesn't see anything else. You can dance on the beach, do anything, he wouldn't see you because he's really focused. And that's really impressive, but also that shows that, you know, there is hope because they are doing the survey and they are doing it really in a really, really nice way.
You say hope, and that hope is the younger generation, learning to live and side by side with Mother Nature. So as the Gulf Coast embarks on the road ahead, we offer our prayers to them. And before we go, my team and I would like to thank all the participants again. I'm Ginger Chang.
And I'm Nils Akans, and we'll see you soon.